Today's video is sponsored by Camel City Mill. So welcome back to Outdoors with the Morgans. I got a massive white oak log right here. The small end measures about 27, 28 inches in diameter. This end here is a disaster. I mean, there have been bugs all through this thing for years. So you may ask yourself, why would I buy something like this? Well, it's because somewhere in between here and that end, it's a really good log, but it's kind of a roll of the dice. Now, I buy the majority of my logs from a land clearing company, not a logger. There's a big difference. A lot of overlap there, but a logger, you know, they're going out and they're paying landowners for their timber. They're cutting the trees down, they're topping them, they're skidding them to a landing area, they're cutting them to length, and they're hauling them to a sawmill somewhere. That's what a logger does. A land clearing company kind of does the same thing. They're taking the tree down, skidding some of them to a landing. A lot of them they're chipping up, but they're also cleaning up all the tops. They're grinding all the stumps. They're mulching. They're clearing all wooded material from a location so they can come in and start, you know, stripping topsoil and moving dirt to build a housing plan or whatever, you know. So there's a big difference between the two. Now, when you're buying from a land clearing company, you're not paying near as much per board foot as you would if you're buying from a logger. However, you're going to have some waste, some percentage of waste in your load of logs. And like I said, it's a bit of a gamble, but we're going to take this log for a good example. We're going to clean it up, see where it goes from that mess at the end to where it gets solid. We'll figure out how many board feet are in that log, and I'll be able to tell you at that point what that log is worth delivered to a sawmill, and you know what it will be worth once it's sawn into nice quarter sawn white oak lumber. I'm gonna leave the excavator sit right here. I'm just kind of holding that thing in place. It's not going anywhere, but you know, you cut that end off, say that's 300-400 pounds, something moves, it's a good way to get smashed. That entire log right there, as you see it, probably weighs around 3,800 pounds. All right, I took about a 3-foot chunk off the end of it. We're not there yet. I'll show you on the other end. We got good solid wood right here. The other, I don't know, that lower third's still pretty bad shape, but I got a plan. So we are at about 10 feet 8 inches right now, okay? 10-8. Log's about 32 right here. This is real soft right up in here. Got a bunch of ants wondering what's going on. They're still living up inside of this thing. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna go about 8 feet 6 inches. Yeah. And even if we have a little bit of this left, there's tons of good wood right here. Best case scenario, this all cleans up in another 1.5 feet or so. right, it's just about cleaned up. There's still just a little bit of soft on this end right here, but the log is 9 feet long. I think I can get some nice 8-foot lumber out of it. 9-footers on this side, if you follow me. 8-footers on that side. Now that log right there, 8 feet in length, it's going to be about 250 board feet of lumber. Okay, 250. Remember that. So if you're going to take that log to the sawmill, it's not perfect. It's pretty decent. You're going to get about $1.25 per board foot. Okay, $1.25. That's it. Now, if this was a veneer log or something like that, $4, maybe even $5 a board foot. But for this log right here, I'm going to get about $1.25 per board foot. So 125 times 250, $312 log right here. Okay, so if I were to buy this from a logger, I would have to pay about $312 for this. Now at this point, this log can go on the sawmill, and you know, I'll get some beautiful quarter sawn white oak out of this, some plain sawn stuff. It's not a perfect log, but it's pretty nice. Say, you know, after I saw it, I stack and sticker it. It's going to have to air dry for probably 8 months before you even put it in the kiln. Kiln dry it, then you have something that you can sell. You know, I'm going to say an average of today's prices, maybe $4 a board foot. And what I'm saying is, like the plain sawn stuff that's not as nice, maybe $3. The nice quarter sawn stuff, $5. So I can turn this log, $312.50, into about $1,200. But there's a lot of work from the way it's sitting right now. You know, all the sawing, stacking, stickering, drying, handling the lumber for that $1,200. But back to what we were talking about. It's a $312 log. So like I said, I buy from a land clearing company, and you kind of got to take the good with the bad. But if you're willing to put a little bit of work into it, you know, $312 for that log, I need about 3.5 of those logs out of that whole last load to pay for the load. And in this big old pile here, I've got at least 6 or 7 nice white oak logs. Actually, some that are a lot nicer than this one right here. And then, you know, I got like this big gnarly walnut right here. We'll get some nice slabs out of that. Got some cherry right here. Get some nice 4/4 out of that. So, like I'm saying, there's money to be made there. And it's kind of why I choose to buy from a land clearer instead of a logger. Now, if I didn't do firewood, I would have a lot of stuff left over if I were to buy these logs from a land clearer instead of a logger. That's one nice thing. When you're buying from a logger, you know, you're seeing what you're getting. This, it's kind of a gamble at times. You're kind of taking a chance, but I haven't got hurt yet doing this. And you know what you don't have to take a chance on? Camel City Mill socks. These things are fantastic. Don't believe me, read through some of the comments from people that have bought these. Everybody loves them. They come in 3 lengths, ankle, crew, and boot length. They have them in white now. 100% American made, right down in North Carolina. They have a 10-year durability guarantee on socks. I wear these every day. I love them. Keep your feet warm in the wintertime, cool in the summertime. They're made from merino wool. And what that means is they're better than cotton and polyester. They are. They wick sweat way better. Your feet don't stink. You just can't beat them. You can't. Like I said, read through some of the comments from people that have bought these Camel City Mill American-made socks. They're fantastic. Get 10% off my favorite work socks from Camel City Mill with code Morgans10. Link in the description. So I haven't been down to the wood yard for, I think, 2.5 days. Our weather has just been horrible. It would go from, the sun would be shining for a little bit, so humid out, and then you would have like a flash flood. And then it would just kind of keep repeating that cycle. And then occasionally, all the humidity would go away, and it would cool down like 10, 15 degrees, and then it would just start all over again. But there's been all kind of flooding real isolated flooding. You know, here in western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, they got hammered. Not right by the cabin. Wheeling area, Fairmont, but the weather's been crazy. Now, I think starting tomorrow, it's going to get real hot, which I'm not a fan of. Into the 90s for, I think, 4 or 5 days. But like I said, I haven't even been down here for 2.5 days. So back to this white oak log. I did some checking with a local mill, the owner of it that I know, on what white oak is paying right now, you know, delivered to the mill. And I think with this log, I wasn't too far off at $1.25 a board foot. But the prices range, you know, the whole way down at like 37 cents a foot. That would be for like a number 2 log, which is, you know, a lot of limbs, a lot of knots and things like that on it. A number 1, about 75 cents a foot. A prime would be like a 14-inch diameter log, butt log. That's paying around $1.20. And like a prime 18-inch plus butt log, about $1.85 a board foot. This one's not perfect, so I'm going to stick with that $1.25 a board foot. Now, if this was a veneer log, like I said, that's a whole different animal. They're few and far between. I don't even know what those would sell for. Could be $4 or $5 a board foot. I have no idea. At some point here in the near future, I would like to learn more about this kind of stuff, and I know just how to do it, and I will share it with you. We're going to do a video with Pete, Nuts 319. He's on a big job right now with all kind of wood, good wood, bad wood. It's got everything on it. And whenever he has a bunch of logs in the landing, I'm going to go down and we will learn a lot from Pete. You know, you see these like Facebook posts, it always cracks me up. People will have like a walnut tree in their yard, and you know, a 15-inch tree, a bunch of limbs going everywhere, and they want people to pay them a couple $1,000s to come take the tree. They can have the wood. It's hanging over a power line in a house. There's a lot of value in lumber, but it takes a lot of work to get that money out of it. For example, a white oak log like this, if a logger cut this tree down, he's got to get it out of the woods. He's got to pay that landowner probably 50, 60 cents a board foot. I'm just guessing, right? So he's got to get it, move his equipment in, cut the tree down, get it to a landing, and he's got to pay the landowner 50 cents a foot or whatever. And then at the mill, he's going to get $1.25 a foot, and someone has to pay for the trucking in there, which is very expensive. And then the sawmill, you know, they're buying it for $1.25, and they have to saw it, stack it, sticker, let it air dry, kiln dry, and they're going to sell this lumber, if it's not quarter sawn, if it's plain sawn, for probably $3 a board foot. So there's a lot of hands eating out of that same pie, you know what I mean? To get $3 a foot out of this, there's a ton of work, a ton of fuel, a ton of equipment and time, and it's surprising that they make any money at all, to be honest with you, but they do. That's why it's so hard. You have to find those neat little markets and kind of specialize in some things. You can do a little bit of everything, but you need to find your own little market, because with a mill like I have, it's a fully hydraulic mill. I mean, it's a nice sawmill, but there's no way, even if I had 2 other people, that I can produce the lumber that some of these big operations do. You know, they make their money on volume. So I think for the small guy, you need to focus on, you know, a couple specific little things, and also like the firewood thing, for example. If I was just running a sawmill, I wouldn't buy my logs from a land clearing company, because I would have so much waste that I wouldn't have anything to do with. You know what I mean? I'd be ended up burning it or trying to give it away or something like that. But for what I do, this isn't a bad way to go. You know, 5 or 6 white oak logs like this out of that load pays for what I paid for the load and then some. I get some firewood out of it. I'll get some live edge slabs out of it. There's all kind of stuff in this pile. There's walnut, there's cherry, white oak, a couple red oaks. You know, there's value there, but you got to put the work into it. It's a lot of work. It is. You have to like doing this kind of stuff because there is a lot easier ways to make money, in my opinion. I'm looking at this big round here on the ground. I got to show you this. I can't wait to quarter saw some of this white oak. I don't know if you can see these streaks in here. That'll be the raise and flex that you see when you quarter saw this lumber. I did a video not long ago on quarter sawing. You know, these are the growth rings right here. And you can, I don't know if you can see it this camera or not, but there's lines all headed to the center, right? And so when you quarter saw it, take boards out this way, 90 degrees to the growth rings, that's where you get all those beautiful raise and flex. But this is a pretty old tree right here. I'm gonna try to get an idea how old this is. We're gonna start from the outside in. I'm gonna guess right now 175 years old. That's my guess. But like I said, the growth rings are real tight, especially when this tree was little. Can you see how tight those growth rings are right there? We'll start from the outside in and I'll get to counting. All right, I did the best I could. Those growth rings are tight. I mean, real tight. But it looks to me to be about 186 years old. You know, I could be off by 15, 20 years. But check this out. 49 years ago, so we worked it from the outside in. 49 years ago, this was the last time the Pirates won the World Series. 49 years. They're horrible. 58 years ago is when I was born. This tree was this big when I was born. 84 years ago, Pearl Harbor. This is 120 years ago, right here. I mean, this tree still, 120 years ago, was about that big. It was probably only about 5 inches in diameter when the Civil War started, right here. And then probably somewhere between here and here is where Joe Biden got into politics, I'm guessing. Somewhere right in there. You know, 180 years ago or something. I want to get a good supply of white oak on hand, especially rift and quarter sawn white oak. That seems to be real popular right now. And usually, from what I can tell, all these trends, they stick around maybe 10, 15 years and then they switch to something else. But white oak is real popular right now. Now, like red oak, for example, red oak was pretty popular for a long time, probably from, what, the mid-80s up until probably 2010, you know? But the 80s, late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you saw a lot of red oak. Remember all the Bruce hardwood floors? Most of the flooring was, what is that, 1 3/4 wide? I don't know. Red oak cabinets, all plain sawn, showing a lot of grain. Red oak was real popular. Cherry used to be popular, but it has kind of fallen out of favor, unfortunately. That's one of my favorite woods. But like the higher end cabinets used to be cherry. You still have your tongue and groove pine. That will last the test of time if you want something rustic looking. I mean, that stuff's been around. Used to see that in the 50s and the 60s, but now there's still cabins, anything rustic looking. It's really hard to do any better than knotty pine, you know what I mean? But now it seems to be white oak, and now even more it's transitioning more to rift and quarter sawn white oak seems to be popular in new homes. It's kind of a, it's a great wood, it is, but it's kind of a neutral color. Walnut for furniture. I like the idea of white oak and walnut accents. I think would look really nice. But yeah, I think wood's coming back a little bit in new homes, especially higher end homes. You're starting to see a lot more rift and quarter sawn white oak. It's a beautiful wood and it stands the test of time. And there's just nothing like it, you know? All of the products that are out there in the world right now, all the fake stone, I mean, I use some. My whole bar in the building is, I forget what it's called. I use Versetta stone, I think it is, on the outside. It's made out of concrete, and the stuff on the inside looks like, it's almost like a plastic, but it looks fantastic. And the only reason I use that is I'm not a stonemason, and it looks great and it's easy to put up. The stuff I put on the bar, I use a finish nailer. But wood, for trim, for accents, for cabinetry, flooring, you know, all the laminate flooring, they try to make it look like this stuff. There is just no replacement, in my opinion, for real wood. It's just great stuff. It is, and especially the quarter sawn and rift sawn. But like I said, there's a ton of work getting it from the woods to a kitchen cabinet. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of work to get to that point. But anyway, I'm going to go up to the house, take the hunt man somewhere, and then when I come back, I think we'll fire up the sawmill. Levi's on vacation this week. The weather's been horrible, so we haven't got a lot done, and I am ready to get back into it. We'll also be setting the container for the kiln on the pad. I don't know, I got another 3 or 4 days at least. They told me to wait at least 10 days before I put that on the pad. So that'll be coming up. Electrician to wire it. We got to cut a hole in the side of the shipping container for that eye dry air. My neighbor Derek has a plasma cutter. We're going to use that. That should work out good. I'm just talking out loud. I think that's about it for today's video. Appreciate y'all being here. Catch you on the next one.